What's going on, guys? It's Frito here for your Overwatch. The biggest tank balance patch in history just went live. We've been talking about it over the last several videos, where armor is being reverted to -5 damage per damage instance, which actually oddly buffs it in many cases against most things. So Reinhardt dealing damage against armor does more now, but specifically against shotgun characters, armor is far more effective than it was before. While you're inside the armor health, shotguns will do far less to you. We're talking about Tracer, Sombra, Mauga, Roadhog, a Junker Queen as well. But once that armor health is gone, then you're going to start shredding through. Another buff they put through to the tank, you can see Reinhardt self-healing here. Out of combat health regeneration has changed from 20 health per second to 10 health per second, plus 5% of their maximum health. That benefits tanks a lot more. So we can just see how long it took for Reinhardt to get all the way up to full health just standing here. Then on top of that, tanks got a new role passive where they take -25% damage to headshots. So Roadhog is going to be a lot stronger and tankier against squishy characters than he was before, and harder to take down. A Hanzo Storm Arrow used to be able to just pump damage into this big meaty head and kill him in a second. Going to have some resistance against that. And on top of that, all tanks now have -50% boop resistance. So they go not as far when you boop them away. Now, for those of you afraid that Hog's going to just run over everything right away, keep in mind, Hog is a lot worse against the armor tanks, just better against squishies than before. Okay, rest of the patch notes. Commanding Shout can now be used while using other abilities, which I think is just a great quality of life change. As you're using your axe, you can pop the ability, but I also think it's probably pretty key while you're channeling this, your ultimate, you'll be able to pop the shout during it, and the cooldown on the shout has gone down to 12 seconds. A new change to Sigma's Flux, it no longer requires line of sight to the center of its cast. So it would be kind of annoying if you tried to cast it right on the wrong side of cover and it wouldn't hit the target because there was blocking line of sight. Now it's going to work a bit more like Graviton Surge, where it has its own gravity as opposed to needing you to see the target into the center of the cast. Now Wrecking Ball in some ways got some buffs because his armor health is going to be better against shotguns, worse against everything else, but his boop is going to be less effective against enemy tanks, and it already wasn't that good against them. So to compensate, they gave him a series of buffs. The impact damage on the grappling claw goes up from 50 up to 60, and the movement lockout from being hit with the pile driver goes up by 1/4 of a second. It was 0.5, now it's 0.75. Minefield gets a series of buffs as well. The damage increased from 130 to 165, which is a key breakpoint when 2 mines hit you. And the explosion knockback has increased from 5 to 10. I think with the combination of both the damage buff on the mines as well as the knockback, they're very likely to get knocked into the other mines, which is kind of crazy. So the Minefield's going to go hard now. You really have to respect it. Zarya gets a few buffs to Graviton Surge, where the radius is now 7 meters away, which is quite far, and it lasts 4 full seconds, up from 3.5. The devs explain this because there's so many ways to interact with Grav now. It's not as impressive as an ultimate, and you can kind of see they're trying to improve the tank carry ability across the board a bit, with Grav Flux going up in effectiveness as well as Graviton Surge. Okay, Junkrat gets a buff where the impact damage goes up on his nade launcher from 40 to 50, and the total damage is increased from 20 to 125. That means 2 direct hits are going to be able to eliminate a 250 H point squishy. The devs explain this in saying they don't want to make the nade mine combo to be lethal because it's so easy to do, but instead, if you're able to get on a target and hit them twice directly, they want that to net with a kill. And I think that's pretty fair overall. It's going to incentivize Junkrat to dive in and hit direct shots with his primary fire, as opposed to just always being able to one-shot kill with that. Echo gets a buff where the ultimate gain rate while using Duplicate goes up from 4 to 4.5. So we should be able to farm up our ult from using dupe a lot faster than before. Hanzo's Dragon Strike gets a buff where the speed is increased from 12 to 15 meters per second. So it's going to come out super fast. This ult is nasty now. They were trying to give Hanzo some buffs because they don't want to give him too effective of a one-shot kill. This is something Hanzo mains have not been happy about. So now that you're more of a pressure DPS, having a very good ultimate, I would say, because this is really going to catch people out. In its ideal circumstances, I still think it was good even when it was slower, but now this super fast dragon is certainly going to be effective just on its own. I think you can aim it and really guarantee getting a kill, especially even on the enemy tank, will struggle to get away from that, I would say. Brigitte gets a buff where using Rally will now reset your Shield Bash cooldown, which I think is amazing because it's going to allow you to use it for mobility and then decide to use it again as a stun or another mobility channel, which is really going to help you either pursue or run away and make Brig a lot more effective. That's a really big buff in my opinion. There was a few more major changes on the patch as well to matchmaking. There is a Demotion Protection modifier change where now you should be able to see exactly what it's doing as opposed to be surprised after the fact when it robs extra SR from you that it was withholding before anyway. There's a new ranked modifier called Pressure, and this is for players at the extremes of either ends of the skill curve, either the very top or very bottom, and is going to modify your gains based on that. Grouping restrictions have changed for the top ranks. Grandmaster can now group within 3 divisions and still be considered a narrow group, and champions can now group within 1 division and be considered a narrow group. Narrow group matchmaking is kind of a deal breaker because once you're in the wide group, it kind of doesn't function. Pretty unhappy with how that's been working out so far, honestly. And a very interesting matchmaking update. Try to track if this is affected in your games. When a player is on a loss streak, the matchmaker will now try to avoid putting the player on a team that is statistically calculated to have a lower chance of winning. And they explain in the dev comments, this doesn't necessarily mean you're going to stop losing, because maybe if you're on a loss streak, you're playing bad, having a bad day. But I'm actually not sure how I feel about this, because as far as MMR is concerned, you're supposedly going to be able to bounce back in matches where you're not favored to win, but you do anyway. So instead now it's going to try to put you on a more even or even favored team to kind of force 50% win rate when maybe it's not the matchmaker's job to worry about that. It's a little tricky trying to play with things like this that are based on the feeling of losing as opposed to the competitive integrity of it. I'm a little concerned how this is going to work actually, but maybe it's a genius solution. We'll see how that pans out. I hope you guys enjoyed the video and the patch breakdown. Leave us a like if you did enjoy, and hit the subscribe button and the bell icon to actually get notified when our videos come out. I've been Frito for your Overwatch. I'll see you guys next time.